First Holmes was born, then he got fat, bald, and tired. Sup, Holmes?
Beware your host, Jonathan Holmes.
Jesus Christ! That really scared me this week. I don't know what was different. Something was scared. Luis, you were different. How are you, Luis Hernandez?
I'm full of beans, I guess.
You are full of beans.
Yeah.
It's great to have you on the show.
Thank
You
you.
are a video game developer. I've been hearing about you for a while.
From who?
Let's see. Max Scoville,
Oh yeah, Scoville.
Zoe Quinn,
Quinster.
an ex-guest of this show,
Mhm.
and Jim Sterling. He was just talking about you, too.
James Sterling Meyer.
How do you know all these people?
Okay, so I should answer questions, I guess.
If you want.
Zoe lived in Toronto for a while. She lives, I think, in Boston with you now.
Not with me, but around. Pretty close.
I think in the same house. Possible. Uh, I'm trying to think. Oh, I remember I met Max through the Dtoid show because they had a little feature. Tara Long used to have a thing on there called the hell was it? It was like show and tell.
Oh, yeah.
Were you there when that was happening, or is that a Max era?
That was a Max era thing. I was 11, 12 weeks on that show, I think.
I was like 11, 12 years old. Um,
And Jim, you met first, I think.
yeah, well, I think I first talked to Jim like way back in the Podcastle
Oh, wow.
era.
Speaking of 12, were you 12 when Podcastle? Because you look young. You look like a
I
22 tops.
for the show.
Oh, yeah, you look very nice. Yeah.
Stubble. No, I am not 22. I would be cool if I was. Holy shit, I would be like a wonderkind.
We've recently had some Wonderkins on the show. Bo
Yeah.
Blythe, 21 years old. Yeah.
Freaking kids are gonna steal our jobs. They're like,
They're better than us.
yeah. Well, they're plugged into the social network universe that I don't know. I installed Google Plus for this thing, and it's like it's hideous. It's just awful. Like all of the icons over here are gray, so they look like gray to me. I don't know if you remember like old OS 8, OS 7 Mac stuff, or like Windows 98.
Oh, sure.
Gray indicates you can't use it.
Right.
Gray, when something was grayed out, it's like, oh, I can't touch that. That's not active right now. And those are the buttons I'm supposed to be like using right now. So this whole thing is wrong as far as like my design sensibility goes. But
And how long have you been designing things for?
I don't know. What do you consider designing something? Like
Being like, if I make it like this, then it will have this effect on them. Designed.
ooh. I mean, I started. That can get tricky. Like, I built stuff as a kid. I used to build like dioramas and shit. I guess when I think of it, I never thought about it, but a diorama is kind of like the child version of being a level designer.
Yeah, absolutely.
I made like a little Ewok village.
You made your own village instead of
Yeah.
buying one at the store?
I had that fucking Ewok village, the purchased one. It sucked. The one I made had way more traps in it, and like the one I bought was like a net falls.
Yeah, there's a tree and a net and a fireplace.
Crank a little thing, and like an elevator goes up or something.
Yeah, I think there's a thing to make C-3PO levitate as well.
Oh,
Little known fact, the one time that Ewoks speak English is in that scene in Return of the Jedi.
what scene? What did they say?
C-3PO says something like, "Ah, I am your great leader," and then they cut to an Ewok and he goes, "That guy's wise. Check it out." Yeah.
Wait, hold on a second. C-3PO says English? What?
Oh, I'm sorry, I mixed him up with C-3PO, the golden one.
No, that's oh wait, that is C-3PO. Okay,
I
right.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Bam.
Oh,
Star Wars.
I don't know anything about Star Wars. I'm gonna get hate mail or something now.
So you started designing dioramas, but you didn't start
Well,
designing.
I would build shit with like plasticine and stuff as a kid. So I really liked, I'm a plasticine, Fimo, Sculpey. I was that kind of kid. And then I also did that thing that like the villain in Toy Story does, where you like mix and match all your toys together.
Hmm.
It made it seem so sinister, but to me it was like assemblage or something. Like, you take the
Well,
arms from this GI Joe and you put them on this other one and mix
well,
and
in
match.
real life, the toys aren't alive, so it's not mean.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I thought it was weird that that was the villain. Um, and then I started doing like I entered the world of games stuff when I was probably 14.
Whoa! I thought you were talking about 14 this whole time.
No, no, that was when I
Oh,
was a
really?
kid. I was like, that's when I was like 8 or not 7 or something. Um,
You
when I
became a man at 14?
uh, is game design is that the prerequisite for becoming a man? That's
Maybe. I want to hear about what games you made then. Maybe they were man games. When did you start
I mean,
making? What was the first game you made?
well, that's the thing. I didn't really make okay. So the scene at that time wasn't really that you made a game. Like, there wasn't really the tool set that exists now for making games was absolute fantasy even
Hmm.
even 10 years ago, right? Like something like Unity, which is what I use. Um, I keep looking. Hold on, I don't know. Is there a way I can minimize myself here? Because I keep like seeing my own self, and I want me to go away. Can I like maximize just you?
I just stare at the camera. I don't even look at
Oh,
me
really? Should I
or
just
you.
look into the camera?
Oh yeah, yeah. It makes you look like you're making eye contact with the people.
Oh, okay. Hello, people.
Oh, you just charmed the pants off those guys. They're
Yeah. I don't know.
freaking out in the comments right now.
I'm aiming at the wrong gender if that's what I'm doing.
That's fine. Most
Um,
genders are fun to charm. But you
okay.
were saying at 14, you couldn't even imagine the tools that you have now. So you had primitive 14-year-old tools. When were you 14? How many years ago?
I was like, what year is it? 2013.
It
Uh,
is.
I guess that was like 14 years ago, 13 years ago.
Oh, so you're like 30-ish?
I'm almost. I don't like to say I'm not 30 yet. Mm.
So around 1999, 2000 or
Yeah,
so.
yeah, somewhere. It was when Half-Life came out. So,
Ah, gotcha, gotcha.
um, Half-Life came out. That was a big deal. I'm sure you remember. I gotta look up at this thing. Okay.
Sort
Uh,
of. I
yeah,
was older. I was poor and without a good computer when Half-Life came out.
you probably had like big muscles or something though. Yeah, I don't need. Who needs Half-Life when I got like guns right here? Who needs video game guns? You got real guns.
I was a big, I think that was PlayStation 1 era. It was huge on the PlayStation 1 at that point. So I still love video games, but computers were way
Oh,
above my price range at that point.
I think I had just got my first real me computer. Like I, installed a video card. I was like starting to build computers, and it was cool. Um, so I remember I got Half-Life. It wasn't the first; it was the Game of the Year edition, and
Mm.
so that came with a level editor. Worldcraft was what it was called, not to be confused with Warcraft or World of Warcraft or something like that. It was called Worldcraft, and that was the level editor. And they shipped the. Can I swear? I can swear on this thing.
Oh, sure, you already have.
In game with a level editor, uh, beautiful. It was awful. It was so hard to set up. It was like the hard. I remember I got the flu, and that's the only reason I had the time to sit there and try to like weed through tutorials to set the damn thing up, so I could just start like making crappy rooms and stuff. I remember I got that. I was like 14, and then I would just sit in school all day, um, sketching levels. Like I would just think about levels I could build, and like making textures became like an obsession with me because you don't want it to look like you don't want it to look like a Half-Life mod. You want it to look like your own custom level, right? So
Right.
I remember I got really nuts into photography for getting my own textures, like just scouring the city for, oh, look at there's like a rusty fence over there. I'm gonna like go photograph that rusty fence and like, then I'll make a texture out of it in Photoshop and then I'll um then I can have like gritty textures in my level. Like this is before gritty was really overdone. Like now every game is gritty, but back in 1998, like games still had that sort of kind of Pixar look to them. Like everything was just clean and sort of sterile looking. So I don't know if you remember Kingpin. It was like a first-person shooter, Kingpin. It had like Cypress Hill in the soundtrack.
Whoa, I'll look that up.
Yeah, it's good.
Is
Is it gritty? Oh, it was like the first real gritty game I'd ever seen. Right? It was just adult in maybe in a stupid way, but at the time, like people are swearing. They're like, "Yo, motherfucker, what the fuck you doing? I'll bust a cap in your ass" or whatever. It was like really 90s gangster kind of thing, and everyone looked like they were made of meat. Like it was partially like the animation system, but like people would undulate in this really like creepy way. So they're like, "You got $1," and they would kind of vibrate. So everyone looked like they were made of like a stack of meat.
It sounds incredible.
If you haven't played it, you got to look it up. I think it's on Good Old Games. That's a plug for
Good Old Games. Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, they're getting something. Anyway, so I was making Half-Life levels, really bad Half-Life levels. I don't think any of that stuff still exists because Planet Half-Life probably purged its archives by now. But I was on mod teams and stuff, and so we'd make like really bad Counter-Strike kind of things. So I did that kind of thing for a while, and that was good enough, I guess. Like the idea was that I never thought I'd actually be able to make a game unless I worked at a big company like EA or something, right? So the tool sets and stuff that we have now, where I can just like build a game in a day if I really wanted to. Not a good game, but I could build a game in a day.
Yeah, you did some game jams.
I've done game jam stuff. So I mean, that's with a programmer to lubricate the process. Like I don't think I would do that solo. It's not fun solo. I have done it solo, and it sucks. It's
Too much of the painful part.
Well, it's not only that. It's like there's like a ping pong that happens when it's like a 2-person team.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I work on some assets. If I'm collaborating, it's probably my friend Jess Browse who does the programming in Jazzpunk. So it'll be like I'm working on assets, he's doing some programming, and then we'll kind of like work on our computers, and then we can sort of show each other the thing that we were working on for the past hour, and that kind of reinvigorates you. It's like a present almost.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like, oh, here's a new thing that's added to the game. It's exciting. And then that kind of reinvigorates you to keep working harder. It's almost like you're trying to one-up each other with cool stuff.
Right, and energize each other. I find that you can just burn out if it's all you just moving in one direction.
Right.
And you can be focused on the goal, and you can remember the goal, and that can reinvigorate you. But after a while, you're just kind of like, I don't really have to do this. If I don't do it, no one will know. Who really cares? But when you make something for someone else, and then they get happy about it, then you get happy about what you did. You want to make more stuff. They want to make more stuff. It's essential
like
for a lot of people.
That occurs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like being in a band or something, I guess, right? So it's,
I noticed. Are you in a band?
No, I rented a drum kit for a while. I'm not in a band officially. I make music, but it's not a band.
I've heard that you've made music.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Okay, so I mean, I make music and stuff for the games I make. I don't know, this is a whole thing to like get into. Okay, well, I'm curious. What's like the heaviest music you listen to?
Heaviest, like makes me cry with heavy feelings?
No, that's a good one. Feelings.
Oh, this is heavy.
Yeah, no, like okay, what would you say the most like sound pressure level intensity, the music with the highest sound pressure level that you listen to?
Wow, I don't know. I wouldn't even know how to measure that. Would you mean like Slayer?
It was funny because I was about to ask you if you listened to Slayer.
I used to listen to Rain in Blood like every day, 4 or 5 times a day.
Is that in the 1980s?
That was in the early '90s, I think. Rain and
Um,
blood through the lacerated sky. He was so passionate and ridiculous. I was laughing at him while loving him.
I mean, that's good if you're not too serious about it.
No,
I think
no,
some people
it
get
was funny.
really, really serious about death metal. I guess that's like slash metal. Um,
Ooh, I'm behind the times. Like how you were confused by Google Plus being gray. I don't.
Crazy kids in your Google Plus. I don't.
Yeah, slash metal, screamo, blah, 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 blah. I don't know.
Pretty sure I don't know what screamo is, but I'm pretty sure it's awful.
It's got pressure. They're very pressured.
Are they?
They're exuding
By what?
pressure on your face with yelling.
Oh, they're pressurized. Um,
I think so. So you were asking about my taste in pressure music, but what about you? You were going to talk about you and making music for your own games.
I'm just yeah. Like I don't know. I mean, it depends on the game I'm making. I'm okay. So I'm really into synesthesia, which is like when your senses are kind of mixed up. So it's like,
Are you for real?
yeah, well, it's a real thing. It's a real like,
You're like the second guy to talk about this on the show in the past month.
who
And I've
did?
never heard of it before. Gordon Midwood, creator of Liltline and Derek the Deathfin, started talking. But he's British, so he called it synesthesia.
Anesthesia.
Yeah, and he sounded great. And now you're talking about. No, please continue though. I didn't mean to cut you off.
The thing about synesthesia that I find really fascinating is, it's with games you have the potential to like mix up those two things in a way that you normally wouldn't have control over in other mediums, right? So with oh, sorry, what was his name again? I got it.
Gordon Midwood. You should look him up. Yeah,
Um,
he made a iOS game you could buy for $1 called Liltline that you might like.
does it have that shark that's on the picture in it?
No, that's his newer game that's got commercial appeal. Liltline has no appeal. It's about a line, but it's all about synesthesia. It looks, how it feels, how it sounds.
Yeah. So I like that. I like it.
Yeah, me too.
Women about video games.
That's sad that you've seen anything I've done. I don't want anyone who's good to watch anything I've done because it makes me feel like they're going to watch it and be like, that's not good. I can
Well,
do better than that because I'm good at things.
but I'm just a guy, so I've seen your Sundays with Sagat, and I've seen your.
Whoa.
I listen to your Podtoids, man. I know.
Oh, no, that too?
You got your Mudman, and you got your fucking what was it like Turbo Snail? And
Yeah, I made up a GameCube commercial once.
that was that. My mouth was agape when you gave that Turbo Snail. Like, it didn't sound like your voice. It sounded like someone like tackled you and took the phone and was like, "Fuck, man. Fuck, I'm just a piece of shit. Fucking what the fuck?"
I was passionate.
Yeah, you're intense man.
I really felt it. I really meant that commercial. Gosh darn it.
What's your backdrop? How come you have like cool colors behind you?
I bought it at the craft store.
Man, I gotta get
Yeah. There's $18 a piece, I think, for those. Pricey.
Okay. So I got on a tangent. I was talking
That's
to,
okay.
I'm kind of scared like Conrad is gonna like Sinistar me.
He won't. He only shows up occasionally to correct me when I
Oh,
fail.
he's not gonna correct me if I say like
Probably not.
Klaus Oldenburg is best known for his Dadaist assemblages.
Is that what Klaus Olgenberg is most known
No,
for?
he's not. I don't know. I thought Conrad would like correct me there.
He might. He's
Okay.
once you draw attention to him, he's less likely to want to reward you for that.
Oh, really? He's gonna like hide more.
He's
Okay,
Sinistar too.
gonna
He's
do
not
that.
really Conrad, you
Oh, I'm
know.
not allowed to say Conrad.
No. It's
Okay,
a
sorry.
secret.
In the canon of Sup Holmes, Sinistar is a thing. Okay,
Yes.
so I was talking about synesthesia in a bad British accent, and so that's really important to me. Just because I make like sound stuff and I make visual stuff, and um, that relationship is really interesting to me. And that's not a cool way of saying that.
No, you're being very cool.
I-
You stop it.
Well, what I mean is like that's not a very like it's not articulated properly.
I feel like I understand you. You articulated it to me. I
I
totally get it. But
art
when did you start making music? Was that around the time you were using WorldCraft to make a world?
to make a world, to make a like facilities. You couldn't really make outdoor areas. In
You could just make offices and stuff.
you could make like a factory, or you could make like a really weird factory. Yeah, it was kind of it was really limited. Like everything was like 90-degree angle, 45-degree angle if you're lucky. Really geometric, like Minecraft sort of blockiness.
And
And
that totally took off. Minecraft, people love it. Geez, that Black Mesa, the Half-Life mod, people love that. People love Stanley Parable, another mod.
Black
You would,
Black Mesa isn't. I was just talking about in terms of blockiness. Like
oh, right.
it was
But,
just really limited in terms of geometry complexity. But so yeah, I started making music. I started, I guess, working with sound. I don't know, maybe that's a stupid way of saying it. I don't really consider myself a musician. Like I don't have the. There's something musicians are doing that I'm not privy to. Like they're thinking in musical terms, and I think in visual terms,
hmm.
including when I'm working on like that. Probably some people don't get that, and so it sounds really like fruitcakey.
Oh,
But
no. No, it didn't sound cakey at all, but it did sound like you think that other people think in a way you don't think. But how can you know that? Because you've never
well,
thought. You've never been them. Maybe they're the visual thinkers too.
well, no, because they'll talk about it in musical terms.
Ah,
And I don't
gotcha.
like. I just don't think in. Some people are like natural composers, or they have like a affinity for it, right? And so they think really well in musical scales. And I mean, it's just some people are math people, some people are painter people.
Sure.
Don't you sit them down to do some calculus, and they're like, my brain doesn't work that way. Like I'm not feeling this calculus. And then you show it to someone else, and they're like, oh man, I can't wait to, I don't know, do whatever calculus people do.
Calculate.
Numbers. They're
Yeah.
re- they're psyched about sitting down and doing some numbers because whatever their brain releases endorphins when they do that or something.
Did
So
you make the music in the Jazzpunk trailer?
no, that is a common misconception. I cannot be Tito Puente, and that is it's
Was that Tito Puente?
Tito Puente.
I was not aware of that.
Yeah, no one called me out on it because apparently no one fucking listens to Tito Puente. So shame on all of you for not having Latin rhythms in your heart.
But are you going to be doing the music for Jazzpunk when that comes out?
Yep, I'm doing all the music for Jazzpunk.
We should
Uh,
talk about Jazzpunk. I want to know what that is.
so Jazzpunk is a game that I'm working on with my colleague and friend Jess Browse, and we've been working on it for way too long. Um, and I don't know, what do you want to know about it?
It's a comedy adventure.
It's a comedy adventure. Yeah, that was an interesting turn. Uh, so okay, Portal came out. A couple other games came out around the same time. There was this like really interesting boom of these indie games that like got it. Like they were just
Mm.
fascinating indie games. And up until a certain point, like indie games had always looked very indie game-ish. And Braid kind of came out, and Portal, which wasn't an indie game, but kind of like Valve co-opted an indie group from
Right.
Japan and stuff. And so you had this like weird little project that came out. And then I remember indie developers became like obsessed with Portal, and kind of having this like first person puzzle thing like took off. Like didn't you have a thing with Alex Bruce?
Yeah, Alexander Bruce was on not that long ago,
So
and his
so there's
game's
a,
almost done. It's awesome.
yeah, there's a ton of these games that like you can look at them and you can see the Portal DNA in them
Mm.
really directly, right? Because they're interested. Suddenly, people became fascinated with doing these like first-person puzzle things with like really unique mechanics. That just became like I don't want to say a fad, but it became a really popular thing for years, and I think it still kind of persists. Like indies feeling like their game has to have this like crazy inversion, the gravity gets inverted or something, and like you turn physics and time and space on their head or whatever, and your brain is expanded. So I was like part of that camp. Like I was really psyched to make some some weird game that was like a first-person puzzler, and I had all these like game designs for that. And then I became like obsessed with making a like noir kind of cyberpunk first-person puzzle game, and that was maybe like 90 or sorry 90 that was 1997. No, that was um that would have been probably like 2007, 2008.
Oh wow, still kind of a while ago now.
Yeah, it's scary to think about. So that was back then, and I was trying to design this thing, and that I realized was kind of where Jazzpunk came from. Was me trying to figure out how to make this like weird kind of gadget cyberpunk noir thing. But it didn't start off as an adventure comedy. It started off as like kind of this weird um, gadget puzzle gameplay mechanic thing, and I started working on it, and like I got really obsessed with kind of like mid-century modernism as the look, which is why it has like this really start. That's like I don't know. Let me think. Like something like that's
Oh yeah,
a painting
the
of Josef Albers, but that
the, be-
that kind of stuff. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
the beginning of Jazzpunk looks like that, except colors and wildness and
Yeah,
going up the
yeah,
elevator in
yeah,
the
yeah.
the teaser trailer, which also gave me a little bit of an anti-chamber feel as well.
Oh, I haven't played Antichamber.
Oh, maybe I can send you one. I
Is that
got one, an anti-chamber. It's not out. I can
I
ask him. I'll ask Alexander Bruce.
met him at GDC, but I don't know. He had just won the award for something, so I think he was like celebrating. But
He's a great guy. I think
yeah,
you'd get along with him well.
I think he's a nice guy. So that was kind of the impetus for it, and so I was making this like weird kind of noir puzzle thing, stylized, like as stylized as I could get it.
Hmm.
Part of that was just that I didn't want to spend forever on it. Like I wanted a sort of level of fidelity for the world that doesn't you don't expect like really intense facial animation or something. Like I wanted to get away from spending. I mean, you're working on whatever Teenage Pokemon, and
Oh
the
yeah.
amount of animation time in that kind of thing is just ludicrous, right? Like
Yeah.
the man hours to get people to say the word like sandwich, and you have to like like someone has to animate a mouth to do that. That's
And
horrible.
time it right too.
Time it right. It's like that's I used to want to be an animator when I was a kid, and then I went to like animation camp or whatever, and I made some like animation, and I was like, fuck this. I am not gonna spend like there are people, whatever, Pendleton Ward or something, who loves animation, and I guess maybe I think animators like their brain works in a different time scale, so
Hmm.
they can kind of like slow down or speed up time in their brain, and so it's not as agonizing. But for a non-animator, it's just endless like torture, where you just draw a little bit and then like tweak it and then draw and tweak it and draw. Like I can't do that. I go nuts. So anyway, I was trying to avoid sorry if that makes a noise. That's loud.
Oh, I like it.
Uh, yeah, so I was trying not to get bogged down with like photorealism, and so I was trying to stylize this thing. And I'm a silly person, and Jess is a silly person, and so we would occasionally like throw these sort of gags in to the game, sort of for our own amusement as we're working on it, and those kind of built up, and we'd like play the game again and add more kind of serious gameplay things, and then over time we realized that our favorite parts of the game our favorite part of the game was the humor that we were injecting into this game that wasn't a comedy. Like it wasn't the design document for Jazzpunk. I don't actually use a design document, but the initial concept for Jazzpunk was not a comedy. It was a much more straightforward. And as we continued to work on it, we realized like, no, this game is at its best when it's making us laugh. Uh, and then it from that point on, like once we kind of admitted to ourselves, I think we were like afraid comedy in games is a really like it's a weird point of contention with a lot of people. Like if you say, "Oh, this game is like got there's comedy," or like people get mad almost about it, or they're like, "Show me, you think you know? Like you're not Louis C.K." Although my name is kind of close.
It's pretty close.
You're not Louis C.K. Like what do you know about comedy? Kind of thing, right? Like they get really defensive about it. I mean, maybe rightfully so, because I can't, off the top of my head, like I can't think of too many games that are funny. But I think also it's partially because a lot of games are done by huge studios, and that is going to dilute. It's like a joke designed by committee. Like that's awful, right? And so, I think the reason Portal was one of the only like good comedy games out there is partially just because of Valve's studio structure, right? Where I don't know if you know about their like weird cabal system where people work on the game in these like little small groups.
No, I didn't. I hadn't heard about that. All of their games are designed that way, or
Yeah,
just
that's just how their studio functions. So
Huh.
people work on little parts of the game as small groups, and they sort of like, um, I don't know, each group kind of has like a self-guided goal about what they need to complete, and then they kind of put the game together like from those smaller fragments. So it is kind of almost like a small group of people you could be say is comparable to like a small indie studio or something, right? With like two or three or four people kind of intensely working on something together, as opposed to you're working on something and the guy on the third floor is working on something and you're like sending bits and pieces of a joke to each other, in like
Sure.
Activision or something, and they're like, they get a memo in their email and they're like, oh, read this joke. I added more cream to the pie. Like, it's got more polygons on the pie. Like that should be funny. Um, and so, well, I can't remember what other
Well,
tangent I
you were
was.
talking about how
It
it took
became
some bravery, and I'm not sure if you said this or I was thinking it, but
okay.
I was thinking, at least, I know for sure I was thinking, it took some guts to shift from a look and a style of game that was kind of in the developer consciousness at that time, tried to do something that took risks, but in a way that you knew was going to be accepted by a certain type of video game developer and a video game player. To throw that out and be like, nope, comedy game. And there's nothing more risky than comedy. I don't think comedy
Comedy,
gets. I'm sorry, yes, it is, isn't it?
it's terrifying. Oh
There's
my,
no way of knowing if you did it right other than you liked it. But
yeah,
that's it. That's all you have. It's like dancing blind in a room full of douchebags and ducks, douchebags and ducks. You
yeah,
have no
ducks.
idea what's going to happen to you.
Yeah, comedy is well, I don't know, we joke that like we pick the two hardest thing, like game development and comedy are like some of the two hardest things I can think of doing. There's probably, getting into space, I'm sure is really hard.
Yeah,
But
it's mostly done by other people.
yeah,
Getting
I
into
guess that's true.
space, you just have to do sit-ups and be able to hold your breath for a while and
Like
turn the knob, and then
let's
you're
say
in space.
building a rocket then. Like building a rocket is hard work. But I guess it's like well, here's the problem is building a rocket is hard work, but there are books about rocketry that you can go get at your local library.
Yeah, just
It
follow the craft, and you did it right.
kind
Making a video game, how do you do that right? How do you know that's good ever? It's the exact same with comedy. You just have to do it and hope, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's one of those things. It's like um, you do it for long enough, and hopefully you start to get a sense of what works and what doesn't work.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, with a lot of things, you have the luxury of having other people done it before you that you can cite and maybe even contact them and be like, "How'd you get this to work? My rocket isn't making it to the stratosphere. Help me out, Werner von Braun or something." And in comedy, like doing a comedy game, have almost no, I have no previous things to cite. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I know a lot of people enjoy the Monkey Island games, or like there's old adventure games that they get a lot of humor out of. That like Jess is that where he grew up playing all of those LucasArts adventure games, so he gets there's probably some LucasArts DNA in Jazzpunk, just by his virtue of working on it. But for me, it's like I can think of only a handful of games that have actually caused me to smirk, like even laugh is kind of, I don't know. I'm trying to think like what's made me laugh. Portal.
Portal. Tingle.
Is that the Zelda guy?
Yeah.
There's a Tingle comic that someone made that was funny. That's about
But not actual Tingle made you
not
laugh.
actual
Dude,
Tingle.
51 games? They ever make that?
No. Those I find them even though they're I guess a parody of something, I still find he like takes them very seriously. Like he's really serious about his joke or something. I don't know.
He seems half unaware of what he's doing. Like I've been lucky enough to talk to him a few times, and he doesn't know why he did that.
Oh.
The amount of risk he takes just on a guess, on his intuition and his passion, that he's semi unaware of why he's even wanting to do it. I must do this. I must make Mondo travel through the island of Flower, Sun, and Rain, and then find the pink crocodile. And like, what? Why did you? But he doesn't know why. And then you tell him why. He's like, oh, interesting idea. He's like, he hadn't really thought about it. Then he finishes and just doesn't even think about his past game. Just moves on to the next one.
Who's Mondo?
Mondo is from Flower, Sun, and Rain, but he's also the main character in his next game, which is called Killer is Dead. And apparently he only sort of remembered that he'd used that name before. He's like, oh yeah, Mondo. Yeah, I guess I like that name.
Maybe he read a lot of Mondo magazines back in the 90s.
Yeah, perhaps.
Killer is Dead is brilliant marketing. Like you got the two words there that are gonna sell your game.
Dead always sells.
Dead and Killer are two, like he could have called it like Blood War or like War Kill.
Yeah, War Kill, Dark Death.
Dark
Death's not good.
Blood War.
Yeah.
The Dead. I don't know.
Yeah, but again, he only sort of knows that. Like they ask him, why did you name the character that? He's like, oh, because it sounds fun when you go Travis Touchdown. But do you know what that means? No, kind of.
Touchdown.
Yeah, he only sort of knows why.
Why would he pick a name that has like they don't have a V, so he has to say Travis?
There's a reason for that. I used to know it. It's something to do with tigers, but I don't know the answer. Yeah. Oh, the questions are coming in.
Jesus Christ.
Yes, this is a real show with questions from the audience. We are about halfway done. We're a little more than halfway done. Can you believe it?
I can talk forever, but I'm sure you guys actually have like lives to get back to. So
I actually have to do sound editing for Teenage Pokemon and adding music. And I think that should take me like 8 hours, sadly. But no, we'll have fun talking to each other. You're the only thing on my mind right now. And these questions, Kane T asks, as someone who's been fascinated by level design, what games excel in that category? Yeah, we're talking about how you couldn't stop thinking about level design when you were 14. What do you think it is about level design that makes it interesting, and what are some levels that you think were expertly designed?
I think what's fascinating about level design is that to me it's the newest. It's one of the newest things that like a human being can do. Like at other points in history, things of like a lot of other mediums have existed in some way, shape, or form. But you have never been able to create a environment from scratch. That is something that's always been out of human reach. So like, books have been around forever. Like that's ancient medium. Music has been around forever. That's ancient medium. Game in the sense of like chess or sport has existed forever. But there is no like 5,000-year-old equivalent of, oh, I made this like really twisted, castle that defies the rules of physics or something, and you kind of like walk on the ceilings of it, and the bricks, can melt in front of you and things like you with level design, you can just it's the closest thing to dreaming.
Mm.
Like people have never been able to sculpt dreams, and now you can kind of do that for people. Like you can just make up locations and give them a feeling and give them like a soundscape, or fill them with entities that maybe make sense or make no sense. And to me, that's like I'm amazed everyone isn't a level designer, because to me that's that's amazing. It's magic,
It's
and
hard though. It is hard. It's
not as
magic. It's hard magic.
it's not as hard as you think. Like, uh, you know, I taught myself. Like, I didn't go to school for it. I taught myself how to do it. And
Jackie Joyner Kersey said the same thing about running fast. She's like, it's
right.
not as hard as you think. You just do it all the time,
Yeah,
and
but
then,
she's
well, you're
probably
fast.
got long legs or something.
You've got long legs of the level design variety, sir.
I think it's if you want it enough, you can do it. And it's not it's great. I mean, every day it gets easier because more and more tutorials and stuff go online, and the software gets better. The software I was using back in the Worldcraft days was awful. It was horrible, and then you'd have to like bake it for hours and come back and hope that it worked and that there isn't like a light leak in your level, and then the lighting is all wrong because there's a leak in your level and the light is like pouring out like liquid almost. It's like escaping through the like a hole in your. If you think of your level as like a container, you could get a hole in your container if you didn't build your level properly, and then when you like click bake for the lighting, it's like the light rays would like pour out of the hole in your level, and then you just end up in this like dark world that is really cool and depressing. Um,
But you were talking before about how animators, you're like, how can they do that? Because it's
right.
so painful. Level design is also incredibly in programming and game development is takes a lot of patience and a lot of slow motion thinking. But there's something about it for you where the emotional rewards are greater than the emotional expenditure. You hopefully are getting more back from it than you're putting in, which
Yeah.
keeps you going. So you haven't given up. Whereas animation, you were like, I put in this much, and then I got 3 seconds out. That sucked. I used to do animation. I'd draw for 8 hours. I'd
Jesus.
get 20 seconds done. I'd be like, that's the most amazing 20 seconds I've ever seen. And then I'd watch it like for 2 hours, just that same 20 seconds. Like, I made the genie's, he did a belly dance. His butt's really wiggling, like in real time. I did that. And I'd be so, these days it just doesn't make sense to stick with that because there's other things I'm doing. But if I had nothing else to do, I would just be drawing genies' butts wiggling and smiling about it because I get more out of it than I put in. And for you, it seems like game design does the same thing. I hope so.
I think animation is linear too, right? So you work for 8 hours and you get, I don't know, I don't have a calculator, but if you divide 8 hours into animation frames per second, you work for 8 hours, you get 20 seconds or something of like a cat with its butt. Um, Whereas with level design, it's like you can build this sort of overall structure of a level. I can do that in a day, right? Where I can kind of fill out a space, and then I can go walk around in it and kind of be like, oh, this needs to get changed. I need to add something over here. I need to add something over here. And so it's not linear in the same way, if that makes any sense. Like I can
Mhm.
get a sense of the location well before it's fully fleshed out, and I think that's way more rewarding for me, um, because I don't have to wait, you know, 2 months or something to kind of get a sense of what the
The
play.
overall, yeah.
Yeah, like Void, I made in a month, um, but
Really?
I made the basic like parts of it in probably a week, and then I fleshed it out over the course of a month. Um,
I don't
yeah,
think not everybody could do that. A lot of people would not feel like that was either their standards would be different than yours or their capacity would be different,
Mhm.
and that just wouldn't come together for them in the same way. So that's
Mm.
awesome. I'm happy, but we didn't answer poor Conti's question,
Oh,
which is what are some level designs that you thought were good? Gears of War?
no.
People love that level design. The
Really,
the pacing between when you gotta hide and when you gotta shoot and when you gotta run. Um, it's not. It's dreamlike to me anyway. I feel like I'm in Cliffy B's mind when I'm playing that
I don't know
game.
if I want to be in Cliffy B's mind.
Well, that's another question entirely, but that feels like the real insides of Cliffy B I'm in.
Okay, I'll answer the question.
Yes, please.
I wish I had my games in here. They're all downstairs. Okay. Uh, I mean, what? I'll just name my favorite game. Okay, my favorite games like excel at all of the things what I like. I like to
Mhm.
say what I like because it's not right. Um, I really like the level design in Metal Gear Solid 1. I thought that was really good, solid. Oh, maybe that's a pun. Um,
You did do that. You
yeah.
did. That was
So,
good. I liked what you did.
Jazzpunk has puns, by the way, so warning to anybody who can't stand puns. I'm gonna pun the fuck out of you in Jazzpunk. Jazz pun. Yeah.
You did it. You did it.
Um,
You just sold the game with that, in my
sorry,
opinion.
to like 1% of the population. Everyone else is like. Uh, Metal Gear Solid 1, Jet Set Radio, uh, Ico. Um,
Ico, I think.
Silent Hill 2 has probably my favorite level design uh, of any game. That game is tops. That game is the best. That game came out like over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
No one has gotten close to it. And
Tell me more, because I've never.
you've
Have I
never
ever?
played it?
I've played it. I own it. I'm looking at it actually,
God, I hope
but
it's
I
not
don't think I've ever gotten through it.
what?
Not because I didn't like it. It just
Scary.
no. I didn't get it when it first came out. I was a late adopter to it, and by that time in my life, I knew everything about the game before I'd played it,
Oh, okay,
and
yeah. If you're
I
a
was
late
kind of
adopter,
yeah. And
you're
I got that in Silent Hill 3, and I played both of them, and I'm like, I got the idea. But I
uh,
was also at the point in my game playing career that once I got the idea, I'd have to stop playing because there's something else I'm supposed to do that's actually like I have to do it, or there's another game I have to review, or there's something I have to write about, or I have to try to make a thing. So, like
okay.
playing a video game just to enjoy it happens very rarely
Really?
for me at this point.
Silent
But
Hill.
anyway, Silent Hill 2. What is good about it?
Oh my God. It's probably got the strongest art direction of any game ever. Um, yeah, it came out, I played it on like a 13-inch CRT, like, a small little CRT monitor, and it looked photorealistic to me at the time. Just kind of through the anti-aliasing of analog televisions, like it looked like magic, and it's just got the strongest art direction for everything. Like, everything in that game is designed, and I feel like when I play a lot of games, certain things are just there because they just needed to happen, and no one sat down and thought about them, and they're like, oh, I don't know, we need monsters in our like Resident Evil 6. What, name some animals and I'll like fucking mash them together. And I don't feel like anyone thought about them. And everything in Silent Hill 2, it feels like someone sat down and thought about it, and actually had like tastes outside of video games to inform them. And so they had, whole histories of things that they're fascinated with that they're bringing, and that's new information. And I feel like when a lot of people sit down to design games, the first thing they do is look at other games to get ideas from, which to me is horrifying because it's just this feedback loop of the
Mm.
same information kind of being regurgitated over and over and over again. I love it when people make games that have interests that have nothing to do with games. You know, they've whatever, they play badminton and they're obsessed with it, or they knit, or they go deep sea scuba diving and they love it. And they can bring those experiences to the games that they're building. And I don't feel like there's enough of that. I feel like there's a lot of like myopia in the development communities out there.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Well, it's a very niche thing that only certain people are willing to pursue, it would seem. Just the way our culture guides people.
mhm.
If you're going to be one of the few who's willing to dedicate yourself to video games, it's probably because you just love all video games and love the medium. So you end
So
up being someone who brings that. Um, potential for regurgitation to the whole thing. But you're right, yeah, Akira Yamaoka, who did the music for Silent Hill 2, but also is really influential in the overall design. He kind of likes video games.
Give him.
Kinda.
People are weird about that. The art director for Silent Hill 2 was Masahiro Ito.
Yeah.
But people always cite, like, I think Akira Yamaoka is a catchy name or something because people always give him all the credit for Silent Hill 2. They're like, oh, it won't be a Silent Hill game without Akira Yamaoka, which is, like, true for the audio component of it.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't design how anything looks or... yeah, he didn't design kind of how anything looks or animates or all the other components of what make that game important. Like,
Sure.
There's very key people there. I don't know. That always kind of bothers me that like Akira Yamaoka.
I didn't mean to bother you.
No, it's fine.
Sorry.
It's the same way like Metal Gear Solid is Hideo Kojima to most people, and it's like they've got some of the best texture designers in the world working on those Metal Gear games.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know their names because they don't get the attention they deserve. It's just it's a Hideo Kojima, Yoji Shinkawa production. Harry Gregson Williams does the music now. That's all you need to know. And there's people toiling away making like insane texture work that aren't getting any recognition, and that always drives me nuts. I don't know who the texture artist is. If someone can tell me, let me know. I'll commission them to make me like a crate or something. The textures are pixel perfect. Like they're just amazing.
Yeah, from
I'm gonna
every
read
game in the series.
I'm gonna read some of these questions here real quick.
Oh, sure, go for it.
I'll just do it. Did I play Thomas Was Alone? No. I don't know what that is. Would you consider making a game without music, but with most of the other aspects of traditional games?
You should say who read the questions.
Oh, Xanadu said that.
Xanadu did. Our Xanadu, yes. And Sirman asked the Thomas Was Alone thing. He's good. I'll send you Thomas Was Alone later.
I don't even understand this. Would I consider making a game without music, but with most of the other traditional aspects of 3D games?
Sure. A soundless walking around in a space sort of game.
Soundless?
Yeah, no. or musicless at least.
I mean musicless, sure, but I would not do a game without sound. That's just not interesting to me. Like maybe like if I had some amazing idea with like, oh, there's no sound in this game, but I've designed games without graphics, which is more interesting to me.
Whoa, tell me about that.
That never got released, but I had a game called Sonescape, which was just an audio game. I don't know. I might release that at some point still. I don't know if I want to talk about it too much, but it was
immediately.
Yeah, I mean, I can send it to you. I have like a prototype of it, but it was just a game without any video in it. I'm annoyed at how little I feel like people pay attention to the sound in games, and I feel like sound always takes like a back seat to like crazy graphics and like, ooh, look, explosions and so on. So I was trying to design something where people would have to focus on the audio, and if you weren't focusing on the audio cues, you will fail at the game. So I don't know. I can send that to you. And
yeah, I'd love that. Thank you. It's something the sound designer for Antichamber is working on too. I can't remember his name, sadly. And then another guy who's making a game. I think it's called Sonar. But there is more push for that happening. But I don't see those games getting a ton of recognition, sadly. People just don't respect comedy as a medium. They think, oh, comedy, you had cheap laughs, this isn't respectable. And they think sound, oh, anyone can just go honk, honk, and you did your sound. Oh, my cat's suddenly here.
Whoa,
Didn't expect that to happen. You want to see him?
Yeah, let me see this cat. Whoa, it's a crazy cat.
He's all right.
This cat doesn't understand that I'm...
How are you? I'm sorry, you were saying before my cat intruded.
What the hell was I saying?
I don't know. This is a fun show.
Yeah.
We just talk about whatever we want in this episode. I'm going to read the questions to you, if you don't mind.
Okay, yeah.
In order to give the feeling that... Oh, that's all right. It's just this way it's like we're talking to each other.
Oh, right, okay.
People love that stuff. Our Xanadu's asking a lot of questions. Oh, wait, no, we just wrote that question twice. My mistake. Palindrome asks, are there any cool or ingenious levels or objects that you're particularly proud of? I presume he means in Jazzpunk, which I still don't know exactly what Jazzpunk is. You talked about what it was, which was
Right.
a very art design focused, abstract design, and clever gadgets. And now it's comedy. Did you keep the gadgets and
There's
the
still gadgets.
design?
There's still gadgets.
Okay.
There's still design in it, but we went away from basically we kind of open up the floodgates and that like we can make fun of. We don't have to be straight faced and serious about it, right? Like we'll just sit down and try to come up with context sensitive jokes that work in completely different parts of it. Whoa, was that Conrad?
No, that was my cat.
that
It's so
sounded like a man. Um, it's like a guy standing in the corner, just like. Bleh. Uh, yeah, I mean, we have a ton of different types of comedy. We're not. It's not like there's one specific style. So there's sight gags, and I mean, we've been using a lot of like old 1980s comedy films as kind of a reference of like what to go like the way they don't make Naked Guns anymore. Like that's not a thing that would sell in 2012.
they make movie
Leslie
43
Nielsen.
now.
Okay, I don't. Yeah, I saw a commercial for that. I don't know what the fuck that is, but
Nobody sees those. I mean, they cost very little to make, then very little people see them, and then they keep making more. But you're right, Naked Gun was like a cultural phenomenon.
or Airplane,
Yes, another one.
or
Absolutely.
Top Secret, or any of the like Wrongfully Accused. There's like a ton of those, right? And they're great, right? They're amazing. But for some reason, they just don't make that kind of. Did you ever watch Police Squad?
Oh, sure. I'm a huge Zucker, Abrams, and
Oh,
Zucker
okay. Zazz.
fan.
You got the
All
Zazz.
all those guys. I've seen Kentucky Fried Movie at least 20 times with my mom. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but there is a scene called Catholic High School Girls in Trouble.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah. No, I know Kentucky Fried. Yeah, yeah. So all of those,
yeah,
all those Zazz films, we we love them, and we're trying to learn from them. Um, so like sight gags, you know, just I don't know, like wordplay, whatever like puns, the whole tree of the whole family of different types of jokes that we can get in there. We'll try, or at least we'll try them, and if they doesn't seem to be working, we'll pull them out and we'll put something else in. But um, yeah, we're kind of trying to go through like a periodic table of comedy and see because games are so weird, right? And like something that works in real life or something that works in film doesn't work in a game because the player can just walk away from it or
mm,
turn their head and miss the joke. Like that's the most horrifying part is when the player has agency to just look away. And so you set up this whole joke and then they turn away for the punchline because they like saw, a shiny nickel or something. And trying to figure out the solutions for that has been, I mean, it's like science, right? Like we actually have to like sit there and sort of figure out uh, empirically like what is working and what's not working and trying to invent. It's really fun because it's so uncharted. Like the territory of like comedy in a game is still real. It feels completely uncharted, and we feel completely alone. It's kind of scary, but
did
yeah,
you think Uncharted was funny?
no, 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 not like Uncharted.
Oh, phew.
No, no,
I
I know
would be
you hate
really
Uncharted.
sad. Yeah, that would have been a bummer
You never
because that's just movie jokes.
Did
In
you play the second one, or you only
I
played the
tried. I played a little of the first one. I'm like, eh.
first
And I
one's
played
awful.
the.
Second one's
Huh?
the first one's awful. Second one's really good.
I tried to like it. I really did.
They have good level design in it.
I bet they do later.
They do.
Yeah.
The
Mm.
temples and stuff are well made.
Willem Dafoe? What?
What was that about Willem Dafoe? I don't know.
Oh, there are you going back to the questions? I wanted to hear more about Jazzpunk though. So,
Ask me a
what
question.
are some of the better gadgets? What are the gadgets that you enjoy the most in Jazzpunk?
Oh man. See, this is a bit of a worrisome part for me because it's not an 8-hour game. So there's only so much there, and I'm very like hesitant to give things away.
Hmm. Well, how many? What's the first gadget you get? That's not a giveaway, is it?
Okay, I guess that's true. Okay, so there's a gadget in there called it's called a degausser. I don't know if you remember degaussing. Uh, People used to degauss their monitors. It was that button you would press on an old CRT that would go like and you get like a mirror. It would sort of get like a rainbow warp on your screen. You never degaussed your computer monitor. It was like that button you could press on a computer monitor that would go like and kind of warp the picture for a second.
That sounds amazing.
You don't remember that? Come on, someone has to remember
I
that.
turned a monitor on, and sometimes it would be red, blue,
Oh, okay.
and green. But I
That's,
never did it on purpose, just to watch it go blah 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 blah. That's like
there was a button there that you could press on old computer monitors that had that. We're all on flat screens. Like the kids aren't going to remember, but I'm sure there's some old people watching us that remember old technology. Um, so degaussing is just demagnetizing, and carrier pigeons function. The way they navigate is they have some kind of like neuron in their head that is magnetically sensitive to the Earth's polarity. So that's how they navigate around the Earth. So there's a gadget early on in the game where you get a degausser, which is kind of the silly looking magnet device, and you use it to degauss pigeons, which basically means you're demagnetizing their ability to navigate, and they like fall from the sky. Which is, I don't know, that's kind of a crossover between us trying to satisfy a sort of gadget cyberpunk mentality and a comedic usage mentality. I don't know. Yeah, you don't seem sold on it, but you'll see.
I am totally sold. I'm being quiet. I should be less quiet on this episode, but I'm
You're
deep
kind of
in
making this
thought.
like you're like, I wonder.
No, I'm like, this is what's going to work for him. I'm excited for you because Frog Fractions is one of the funnier games I've played lately. Did you play the Frog Fractions?
I played it until I got lost in like a water. I don't know. It's spoiler alert for Frog Fractions.
We had Jim Crawford, who made up Frog Fractions, on last week,
Right.
and he found comedy in continually convincing the player, oh, what you're doing is a mechanic, it's serious, and then pulling the rug out from under you and making and showing you that you accidentally discovered a joke that you made funny. You feel like you are the teller of the joke. I think that's oftentimes where video game comedy goes wrong, is because they're telling jokes to you, or
Right.
worse, they're making fun of you
Yeah.
for playing the game. Whereas if a game can make you feel like you were funny and you're surprised at your own joke that you told in game, then you're going to be happy. And the way to do that, I think, is to combine mechanics with comedy, and you're doing that.
Yeah.
That's what I was in thinking deeply. Like, he's doing it.
That-
His game is not going to flop. What a relief.
That
So I
took
was worried.
that took a long time to figure out. Where you start thinking about comedy in games, and you're like, oh, we'll tell the player some funny jokes. That'll be good, and it doesn't really work that way. Like the player needs to be able to sort of instigate their own humor, and that way they feel like they did it, as opposed to it's like a Jack in the Box or something, right? Where you're kind of like, I don't know what's gonna and then it like gets you.
Exactly.
If they can turn that handle on their own Jack in the Box, they get the surprise of it. And if you just do it for them in front of them, there is no surprise, right? It doesn't trigger the same way. It's like you can't tickle yourself, you know.
Mhm.
There's a weird kind of separation that needs to occur there, and so yeah, a lot of our stuff now is what I would call like interaction based, where we'll try to figure out interactions that result in a good comedic result, whatever that may be. Like it can take so many weird forms, so much so that like the game is such a strange mix of completely separate types of comedy, because so different things fit context sensitive for so many different occasions and kind of what you're doing in a game. So I don't know. Yeah, it'll be interesting, and there's puns if you like puns.
I'm very excited about it. When are you going to finish it? Are you?
I want to. I mean, if I had it my way, it would be done this weekend, so I could go play Hawken all weekend. But no, unfortunately, that's going to be a while. I'm hoping to get it done before the summer.
Oh, all
Also
right.
depends, like, things with Steam and like distribution and whether we go with a publisher or whatever, right? There's so many things there that we're still trying to sort out and figure out what's going to happen distribution wise, and like, are we going to do advertising or PR for it, or is it just going to be fully indie, and like do I have enough money to eat food and so on? So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But I will be going to GDC to answer someone's question.
You did it. Squalled 90. Ask if you go to PAX East and GDC. You're not going to PAX East, are you?
Well, that's in Boston. When the hell is that?
Yeah, it's in March, late March, I think.
Isn't that when GDC is also?
They're pretty close to each other. I think they're a week apart this year.
That's really dumb. Okay, so there's no fucking way I can do that. I would, I've never been to a PAX.
I wonder what you'd think.
I would probably like to present, I'd like to show off Jazzpunk or something at PAX, but
it's turning into outside of GDC, of course, the place for indie developers to get to know their audience and be seen as important. It's the way I see PAX, it's a place where people go to feel like video games are important, and that if you like them, the more you like video games, the cooler you are at PAX. And who likes video games more than people that actually make them? So I've the indie developers that I've met last year, there was tons there. Cappy Games was there. Gaijin Games was there. Spooky Squid Games. Miguel Sternberg was there. So many people.
Big Pixels is my favorite game of 2011.
It's They Bleed Pixels.
I know, you used to say this.
I know that I did. I feel terrible about it. Poor Miguel. But his game came out, and people like it now.
Yeah. I mean, part of it, too, is that a game like They Bleed Pixels is really good for that environment. Like, you grab a controller, you go to the... I'm going to describe this very action-oriented, but it's like, you run to the booth, and you grab an Xbox controller, and you look at the screen, and you, like, kill a bunch of guys, and it's, super action-packed, and there's blood everywhere, pixel blood. And Jazzpunk's a little bit trickier to show off at a convention, because it's, like, single-player, there's a bit more kind of a narrative structure to it, like... I don't know. It's the kind of thing where like you sort of want to sit down with it. It's like you're not going to get anything out of a comedy movie by kind of like walking past the TV, every 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Like you kind of have to sit down with it and watch it. And in a good episode of Arrested Development or Community or something, like there are jokes in there that are slow burners, and like they set it up in the beginning of the episode, and then the punchline happens way later, and we have some stuff like that, so it'll be interesting. Like we haven't really shown it off at a event yet, but hopefully I can show it off somewhere soon.
I hope so. It'll be really interesting, and I wonder how surprised you'll be with how people react to it and stuff that maybe... I wonder if you'll be surprised to see people just instantly loving the game where they killed the pigeons. Like they'll play it for like 5 seconds. I killed them! Yay! I love it! And then they'll buy it. That'll be enough for some people, because that is a novel, interesting, and everything about the game, from what I can tell, just evokes interest. Like, what is this world? What were they thinking when they designed it this way? This is so counter to what sells, and yet there's so much passion in it all the same. I think that's going to evoke a lot of curiosity from people, which will invoke their money for you.
I should add that it's not a game about killing pigeons. Not that you got that wrong, but just anybody who's like, oh yeah, Jazzpunk, it's like, I already killed like 5 pigeons today. I don't need a game about killing pigeons. That's like, whatever, Grandpa, move over. Make me a game about killing storks or something.
There will always be those people, no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like, a lot of weird stuff in Jazzpunk that. I don't know. I want people to see it, but I want them to see it. It's like you can't really like tell. It's like trying to explain a joke to somebody, and it's hard to kind of be like, here's 90% of a knock knock joke, and then I mean knock knock jokes there are no knock knock jokes in the game, but um, to upset whoever out there still likes knock knock jokes, but it's like I can't tell you like 50% of a joke and then not have it kind of get a little bit ruined. So I'm trying to figure out like ways around that I can.
Yeah.
Here's the type of thing you're doing. It's games themselves are hilarious, right? Like, as Gordon Freeman as like a mute going around throwing, ant pods at people and like picking up trash and whipping it at security guards and never saying a word and stuff. Like he's already, I mean, that situation, if you just saw it, is kind of hilarious. And so we are able to sort of just poke fun. We've given ourselves, I guess, license to poke fun at the absurdity of a first-person environment where like you can't see you're walking around but you can't see your feet, and your hands are just sort of these like disembodied like like just this like it comes up and it's like holding a gun or whatever, and then and like you're just this weird entity that makes no spatial sense, and you got this like widescreen display but your like hand is like poking up and like the angles are all wrong and all that stuff. Like that stuff is hilarious to me just because of how it is silly.
It's funny. It's hard to know why. To me, it's funny when Link runs into a room and just starts going, ah! Yow! And just breaking everything. Funny. Instantly.
Right.
It's funny in Shenmue. I don't know if you played Shenmue.
Oh, I love Shenmue.
When Ryo just calls up Nozomi.
Nozomi. Yeah, and he's like,
yeah.
"Oh, Nozomi, do you remember that time we sat at the swing set?" And she's like, "Yeah, Ryo, I remember when we did that." And he's like, "Okay, goodbye." Like,
I've imitated that and laughed at other people imitating it for like 10 years now. It never gets old.
If I ever meet you, let's do that. Let's do the Shenmue conversations.
Inazumi. Oh, I can't do one now. With the rotary phone, and you have to like. There's so much build up to it. It's like, wow, this is going to be the most important video game phone call ever. And he's just like, "Hey, did you have a fine day today?" I did. Well, goodbye. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No. I played Shenmue 2 on the Dreamcast, imported in Japanese and with the Chinese pedestrians, and it was way more normal. Like he was just a guy, but the English voice actor was just like I don't know, he had like autism or something.
They all do. There's a little boy. Do you remember him?
Oh, the kid with the cat, no, that was the girl with the cat.
There was a girl with a cat. There's a boy that just comes up to you and goes, "Hey, mister, wanna wrestle?" And you're like, no, little boy. I am a grown man. I am not going to wrestle with you in the street today.
Yeah.
And then, the drunk businessman?
Oh, those were great. Yeah.
I feel too tired lately. For what? Just to say hello? You're too tired to say hi to a man?
Everyone with their perfectly symmetrical faces.
I could go on. I am going on. I feel guilty. And we have more questions to do. And you wanted to say something too, I think. Did you? Maybe. I'll do the questions first. It'll come back to you.
Hit me up with the question.
Damian Sommer,
I know
past
him.
guest of this show. Wonderful man.
You
yes.
Guy.
He made, he's making The Clown Who Wanted Everything?
I was going to do the music in that, and now I'm not doing the music in it anymore.
No. Yeah, I'm sure it'll still be good, but
he'll be just fine.
And Four Color, Friends in Four Colors. I think he's making a sequel to that. I'm pretty excited about. So he's a neat guy. You should look him up, people. He asks, have you had to change Void 1 at all for display in the gallery setting? We barely talked about Void 1, which is displaying in a art and games gallery next month in Toronto.
I got a thing here. Yes, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. It's called the oh, weird. I thought I wrote it down properly. Anyway, it's called the Vector Game Plus Art Convergence, and that's happening at it's happening in Toronto. Look it up online. It's happening at a gallery called Interaccess and another weird game maker kind of space, Bento Miso, which is run by a couple buddies I know, and another place called Video Fag, which I don't know. People will probably have opinions about the name of that place, but we have a weird art community here in Toronto, so figure that one out. Anyway, yeah, that's a weird game art festival that's happening by it's being curated by a friend of mine, Scott Deming, and yeah, so that'll be happening the 24th, no, the 21st to the 24th of February, and you can come and check out Void 1. It will be there. Proteus will be there. Zenith, that weird like Jet Set Radio kind of game
about Twitter and
yeah,
like, exploring Mars. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, that one will be there, and a couple other ones that are off the top of my head I can't think of. So yeah, that's there in my game Void 1, which was made almost a year ago to the day.
Really?
Yeah.
That woman who wrote for that online newspaper frickin' loved your game.
Yeah, Natalie Zed is
What a glowing endorsement.
She's a very excitable lady. Yeah, I was on a metal panel with her, and she's got a lot of energy in her.
Heavy metal?
Yeah, it was a panel at Bento Miso about sort of heavy metal and video games and sort of like the relationship between the two. Yeah, it was an interesting panel.
Sounds great.
Yeah. I was there to bring the mood down, and everyone else was there to be excited and be like, yeah, I love heavy metal because it's a power fantasy, and I love video games because it's a power fantasy, and I'm there, and it's like, I don't listen to power fantasy metal. Like, I want really depressing, like, bleak, dying in the center of the sun kind of doom metal, and I like games that are depressing and where you die in the center of the sun, and I'm frustrated that there aren't enough of those games. There's like Silent Hill 2 and Hawken are like the only metal games I can think
of. Is Hawken metal? I never thought of it that way.
Hawken is bleak. Like Hawken is just wastelands and machines killing each other forever. And so it's really dishuman, and I love it. They really captured that. It's just scrap metal for miles, and these robots, you know, fighting it's just futile. It feels really futile, and I love that feeling. Like Hawken is good. Hawken's really bleak, and the art direction is amazing. So
I take it you didn't like heavy metal on the Dreamcast.
Oh, Geomatrix.
Yeah, Geomatrix.
No, I don't like cock rock metal. I don't go for the Metallica. You know, like, yeah, we're gonna do a song and a bit of like, no. Unless it sounds like I want it to there's people watching this that know Sun, and I like Sun.
I like that heavy metal band you just started, by the way.
Which the one I just did right now.
Gonna fucking ass and a kick in that ass, and that's my idea of rock. I will listen to that any day of the week.
We can depart ways on the branch of metal, right there.
No, yeah. We don't. You just have to make that song. Just write the whole thing, and I have to listen to it.
Oh,
we can be as one on that. Okay. That'll work for me. More questions. We have 2 minutes left. We should try to do them. To not be a jerk. Colin A. Payne asks, What is the process relationship between creating the music and the level design when you're doing both yourself? Presumably they influence each other. Do you start one before the other? What works well for you? This is a great question, Colin A. Payne, because before when we were talking about how you bounce things off of your friend Jess?
Jess?
Jess,
Jess.
I thought that was a girl's name.
No, it's I think Jessie is usually a girl.
Oh, right. Well, you bounce things off with Jess.
Yeah.
And that keeps you going. But when you make the music, do you bounce things off with yourself, where you're like, you make some music that inspires you to do some level design, and then the level designing inspires you to make music? Do you get to have that kind of relationship with both sides of your brain? That would be fun.
What it is I'll usually, I listen to other people's music a lot, not just my own. So I'll listen to other music, and that kind of gets the vibe down. Like when
Mm.
I was first designing Jazzpunk, I was listening to like this really hot sort of Latin exotica stuff that when I first heard it, I like grabbed a piece of paper and started drawing just feverishly because I was getting these like images in my head of this world that doesn't exist that matches that music. Like the music was so intense, but I couldn't think of a world or a movie or a game or anything that looked like that. And I just started sketching like crazy. The sort of I just wanted to capture that like that feeling, and those that became like the beginning sort of design document of what jazz punk looks like. Was was just jotting down these like I just grabbed the most colorful markers I had and just started drawing these like weird palm trees and like cars and lamps and stuff, just stuff to kind of like fit that like hot sound that I was listening to. And like likewise, I'll listen to really whatever some really bleak stuff, some metal or something, and then I'll start sketching to try to fill out a world that kind of matches that sound. But I mean, I also just make tons of music, and then I sort of figure out like this piece fits with this level, and this piece fits with this level, and this piece fits with this level. So sometimes I do the. Usually there's other pre-existing music that I can use as kind of like a mental starter for what I'm aiming for, and then I can start sketching and building a level off that, and then I can fill it in with music later, or the other way around, where I have a piece of music that I've made and I really want a level for it, and then I'll kind of work backwards. So one way or the other, they both work to me.
And that's Void 1,
That
which we
was for
never
Void One and
told the people. Yeah, I feel bad we never told them. Void 1, from what I gathered anyway from reading about it, you explore a space, sounds in the space, and where the sounds are influence how you feel and where you go and where you want to go and where you
kind
should
of.
go.
Yeah, the
Is
sounds are
that
just
right?
yeah, the sounds were. I mean, the audio component of the game is meant to match the what you're seeing and like where you are as much as possible,
Hmm.
and that's influenced by like there's a handful of movies that do that well. I can't think of too many, and then a lot of old music videos from the '90s that were like really heavily art directed. Like when David Fincher and stuff used to do music videos before they went on to get into cinema.
Hmm.
Um, like the guy who did that Robin Williams serial killer movie, whatever, 1 Hour Photo. He was
Oh,
like
yeah.
he was a prolific music video director before he did his feature film stuff. And so there's a lot of like videos out there that match sound and the look really well. And that was always a huge influence on me as a kid. I love that. Is that your cat?
That's my dog.
Oh man, you got a lot
God
of
damn it. My pets are embarrassing. I'm sorry.
okay.
I'm sad that they ruined the show. Well, we're overtime. I feel bad.
No.
Sod, we don't really get to do a 1 second answer to Sod's question, which is regarding the sound game you just talked about. Have you seen or heard the blind gamer playing
I
Oddworld using sound only? Have you thought about that side of making games with sound only possible for blind people? Have you thought about
yeah.
doing that?
Yeah, that the game Sonoscape that I mentioned was I was initially going to like approach a some sort of I don't know what it would be called medical place thing where blind people go for like I wanted to get some blind people to be able to play the game. I wanted to make a game that a blind person could play.
That was such a Zoolander. A
Uh,
medical place where blind
yeah,
people go.
it's like sometimes I'm like thinking about medical things, man. I don't know what that would be called. Some kind
I
of
think School for the Blind. I think that's what
there
they
there
call it here,
okay, there is
Massachusetts.
one of those at least in Toronto, but it's something I wanted to look into, but I don't know. It also just feels weird being like, oh, you're blind, like test this game. Like that seems, I don't know, dispassionate or something. So
Mm,
I mean, I would just make something and give it to somebody and tell them not to look at the screen or whatever, and kind of get them to play it that way. If they
sure.
can still play it, then presumably a blind person could play it. If there's no reliance on any video, then I don't see why I would need an
Yeah.
blind
Well, the
person.
blind people I have met, I can't stereotype, but generally speaking, if something is designed for them, they're at
Mhm.
least interested and not insulted.
Right.
It's actually kind of including. So
Okay.
maybe not everybody, but all the blind people I've met, I think would be excited to play your game.
We'll see. We'll see what happens with that crazy game.
Well, now we have to wrap it up. I feel like we didn't say all the stuff.
I know. There's talking we gotta do.
You want to come on again? Maybe
Yes.
after Jazzpunk comes out?
Yeah, I'd be happy to come on again.
Because I had a lot of fun talking to you.
Oh, you're a nice guy, Jonathan Holmes.
I mean it. You're even more fun than I thought you'd be, and I thought you were going to be pretty fun because everyone likes you.
Uh, do they? I don't know.
Yeah, they do.
We'll see how Jazzpunk does, and then you can determine whether I'm.
I think it's going to do really well. I think that the time is right for people to be okay with a comedy game, to accept it, and they're hungry for it. People are getting hungry for a new thing, and a effective comedy game in three dimensions. Woof. I
Yeah,
don't know if that's been done.
I really want to make a 3D indie game. There aren't enough 3D indie games. Indie game developers, go make 3D games, please.
Unity.
Unity, go get it.
Yeah, it's not that hard.
Into countries. I want games from all over the world in 3D. I miss it.
Yeah, me too.
I miss Japanese games. Come back, Japan.
Yeah, that too. There's a lot of things that are time for a comeback. So people should follow you on Twitter. You are
At Beetlenut.
at Beetlenut,
Beetlenaut,
which is a game you made that people can play right now.
the game you can go play that is
You love it.
pixel art in it, which I don't know how I feel about these
You don't even like Beetlenut. Let's face it.
It didn't do well, so it's a failed experiment. So
I enjoy it. You eat the people, you fly in the air, you eat the planes, and then you die.
yeah, it's a metaphor for life.
Me, I'm at Tron Knots on Twitter. This
Don
show,
Oh my God, nuts! Oh.
Tron Knots, Tron. It's my old shoryuken.com handle back when
Okay.
I was on their message boards back in
Great.
the 90s, late 90s. Anyway, you can watch the show on Dtoid TV on YouTube. You can listen to it on iTunes. Just look up Sup Holmes. You'll find all the things.
I
If you
want
follow
to
me on Twitter.
shake my hand somehow. I
Okay.
feel like I should be shaking your hand. Okay. Okay.
We're doing it.
Eh.
We're doing it.
Hopefully I can meet
Oh.
you at a convention sometime.
Yeah, me too.
What did you
And if you want me to do anything for you ever, I'll just do it.
Yeah, do your voice, your Rocky Horror Picture Show voice.
Tim Curry?
Hurry.
Oh, on the spot. Oh, Louise. You've got such long, luxurious locks. Maybe I could have a little taste. I don't know. I tried. Not perfect, but it was a good shot. Okay, we gotta go. Sinister saying to say goodbye. Goodbye, everyone.
Nice
Bye.
meeting you guys. Bye. Bye.